Hi, my name is Tori Whitmore, and I live in Southern California, just north of Los Angeles, in a town called Santa Clarita. And my midterm assignment, I made a dress. This is the finished little dress that I made, and the pieces that I used were the arm size princess line bodice for the top. And then I did like a small yoke detail around the neck edge, and then just the darts to flare skirt on the bottom. So the fabrics that I chose when I went to the fabric store, I knew I wanted to use like a blush colored fabric. And so both of these fabrics are a cotton poly blend. And it was easy fabric to sew on, which is one of the reasons why I chose it. But I chose two colors because I couldn't decide between the two. And I was gonna do the dress in just one of the two colors. And as I kind of laid everything out, and I thought the colors really complemented each other really well and the different texture of the fabric. So I decided to do the skirt in the little bit darker blush, and then the top, the bodice, in the lighter, which made it kind of fun. So then the pattern pieces that I used is the Arms's princess line bodice for the front. This is the back, sorry. So for the front, I used this one, and then of course I cut the yoke and the facing off of it to bring the neckline down a little bit and to add that yoke detail. I liked the fact that it had the seam going up the front but not on the skirt, because it kind of accentuates the different texture in that fabric. So I used the front and the back pieces. So this is my front piece here, and then the back and side piece for the bodice, and then the yoke pieces. So to create the yoke piece, I just went down 3/4 of an inch from the edge, the neck edge of the bodice front and the bodice back, and then added the seam allowance for it, and then sewed it back on that way. And then for the facing pieces, I went down a full inch and then added the seam allowance, except on this finished edge, I didn't add the seam allowance on there to create those. For the sleeve, I just wanted to do a cap sleeve, so I just did the standard long cap sleeve sloper to make the pattern piece for that, and just followed the instructions that we learned on how to do the sleeve on that. Then for the skirt, I did the darts to flare sloper, and this is my skirt back piece, and I cut 2 of these. And then the skirt front piece, I did one on the fold, and so that there would be no seam going up the front. Now this is for the longer, and you can see that I had the option of making it a shorter dress. And so for this pattern and for this design, I wanted to do the shorter dress for that. And then what are some of the things that I learned? So one thing I really learned was how important it is to do your markings. So when I was creating the yoke pieces and the facing pieces, by having those markings on there and then just lining those up, it was really critical in making it an easy assembly to put the garment together. And with that in mind, what my biggest challenge was when I went to sew the yoke on, I don't know what exactly happened, but my pieces were way too short. So they weren't fitting and they weren't lining up. But what I was able to do was just at that point, I just stopped. I had extra fabric, and so I was able to create a new pattern piece from the bodice that I had already sewn together, and going back to the original sloper, and then create a new pattern piece for both the yoke and for the facing, and then just was able to sew it on, and it worked great. So what was great though was that I learned how to adapt and how to adjust a problem and to solve a problem by the skills that we've learned so far in creating these patterns.